So, Steven, you want to transition into our main attraction of the show, of the episode?
We've been talking about this for a good while now that we were going to do since the re-releases of the Dead Zone were going to come out and by Shout Factory, and Imprint also is going to be putting out a release of it, I think, next month.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out this week, but it got delayed, I think.
Did it? Okay. And a lot of people are getting their Shout Factory releases. I got mine. I think Andrew just got his, and you've probably had yours, right, Ian?
I haven't bought it yet.
Oh, okay. I thought you maybe had gotten it already.
No, I watched it on Paramount Plus tonight.
Gotcha.
Oh, nice.
But
I'm probably going to go for the Imprint one because the extras sound a little more appealing.
Okay.
And there's someone in the UK on Amazon UK. They get all the Imprint stuff, and you can get it next day delivery. So I'll just pay £29 or whatever it is. Okay. The Dead Zone.
But so we decided since Cronenberg seems to be getting a lot of attention recently with new releases and stuff, we would
a new film.
Yeah, and he announced his new movie, which is the name of one of his early movies.
So one of his film of his I have not seen yet.
Yeah.
Crimes of the Future.
It's the early version of it, or early film with that title. It sounds like.
Yeah, but so we decided we would just do we would try to go through Cronenberg's filmography and briefly talk about each movie and maybe add some interesting facts or context and maybe go over some of the physical releases and what's the best version you can find out there if you're interested in buying it. So we're gonna go through his stuff from his early days up until present. So Andrew, you want to lead us?
Yeah, where do you want to start, Stephen? Would you like to start
with the shorts?
All right.
Okay. Do we have to do shorts? They're god awful.
Well, I mean, they're not good.
Yeah,
we're not going to talk. We're not going to talk about it.
Some of the worst acting I've ever seen.
Them in any depth or anything.
No, we don't got. We'll just go over say what they are, and then
I'll just say it's from the Drain, the first one.
Transfer is actually the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like 6 minutes long.
Okay, you guys started. Okay. I'll chip in about From the Drain, one of the worst films ever made by anyone.
Oh yeah, A Transfer is his first film. His first film in quotes. It's a short film, 1966, and it's like 6 minutes long, 7 minutes long, whatever. You can watch all these on YouTube if you want to. It's just. I don't even remember too much about it, Stephen, where it's just him, like, it's not even him, it's just like two people, like, it's a psychiatrist and a patient, and they're kind of just like walking in the middle of a snowy field, and they're just going bananas. It's just bananas. It's just
a straight
crazy.
up obnoxious art film thing that...
It's something you make with your friends when you're in film school.
Yeah.
Where you have a camera and like some time.
Yeah.
And you've got a field, and you're like, let's just start talking about random crap.
And you're a very pretentious young man.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Which he was, as I'm sure he would admit to.
But then correct me, Stephen, and of course Ian as well. There is an early collection of these films in the UK.
Yeah.
Arrow.
Videodrome.
Well,
yes.
Arrow's got a release of the early Cronenberg works that's got Transferred, From the Drain, Stereo, and Crimes of the Future all in it.
Yes, and those, like I said,
but that disc was first released in the big Videodrome box set.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which is the version I have.
And what I also noticed is I probably should have gotten my Cronenberg movies out because I'll never remember this. I know Stereo and Crimes of the Future are on as special features on a couple of the Criterion releases.
Scanners.
I was gonna say
Scanners.
The Brood has
The Brood has one,
Crimes
Scanners has one. Yeah, and then Scanners must have Stereo.
And also, if when we get to Fast Company was put out by Blue Underground, and they also have
both
Crimes
of them.
of the Future. Yeah,
I thought they had both of them.
They might. I just had researched and saw that Crimes of the Future was on two different releases and special features. So
yes,
it's,
So then after that, so basically these groups of films like can be found in either way, or you can just watch them on YouTube like I did.
Yeah.
So because I didn't realize until I was rewatching Scanners and The Brew that they're on there. So whatever.
I think Criterion may have them on their channel.
Oh yes.
Yeah, probably.
I didn't even think of probably. To be honest, you probably don't really need to watch these, but if you're a completist, maybe you want to.
If you want to see the big, some of the inklings of like what he was like thematically trying to like get into, it's good to it's good to. I'm not saying you'll enjoy these, obviously, but it's like if you want to see the beginnings of a director trying to figure out his voice,
or what, just kind of playing around with his tendencies.
I would say out of all of them, Crimes of the Future would be the one.
That's the better of all of these four, I would say. Yeah. So it's Transfer from the Drain, which Ian has already hinted at is also not that great.
It's some of the worst acting you will ever see by anybody.
It's two people sitting in a tub,
overacting,
talking,
horrible.
And then at the end, something weird happens. Yes. And that's about it. That's about it. And then Stereo. I messaged Steven when I was watching Stereo, and I'm like, I don't know if I can make it through this movie.
It's the most boring thing I've ever seen.
It was like, it's like the Stanford Prison Experiment, but just so much more boring. It's just, I wasn't a fan of it. It's an hour and 5 minutes long, and I felt every second of it.
If I'm not mistaken, Kim Newman, who we've mentioned many, many times already, because he's on all of these releases, he's on a lot of the Cronenberg ones as well, is I think what he wrote once about specifically Stereo and Crimes of the Future is they're more interesting to read about than to watch.
Yeah.
On paper, they sound so much more interesting than they actually are. Apparently Stereo is also like supposed to be an educational film, or it was disguised to be an educational film, or he got funding from
sounds like probably
Canadian government to make an educational film.
Yeah, that's because what happened in Canada was, until David Cronenberg essentially, was they basically did documentaries, and Cronenberg was really the first serious, international filmmaker out of Canada. So when Shivers came out, which we'll get to in a second, there was a huge outcry in Canada over Shivers. Because it was like, how dare you make this disgusting horror movie with government funds?
Yeah.
So,
but I haven't seen Crime in the Future yet, but I will, obviously, before the new film with the same title comes out.
Yeah.
It's very interesting but rough. It's rough around the edges. It's weird, really very weird sci-fi dystopian, but it's done in that just dirt cheap budget.
It takes place in 1997.
Oh yeah, which of course that's the future. I can't wait till that happens.
Well, that's what I love about Philip K. Dick books. Is it's always 1990 or something. It's so or Escape from L.A. New York. It's like 1997. When is Soylent Green like the 90s? I think.
Probably. It's kind of like how Skynet was supposed to take over in the Terminator.
Demolition Man.
Oh yeah.
Where apparently in the 90s we were already like becoming a dystopian place with crime and everything, and then in the future we can freeze people and put them in cryostasis.
I have a really funny story about Demolition Man actually. I'm friends with the screenwriter Daniel Waters, who wrote Headers, and he actually wrote that waiting in line to see one of the last Johnny Carson shows.
Oh, okay.
Because he wanted. Okay. So his school friend is Larry Koziski, the guy who wrote Ed Wood, and he called him up on like an early cell phone and was like, "What's some future shit, right?" And Larry was on the toilet, and he's like, "I have some sea-set shells here." So that's why.
Jesus.
That's the origin of the seashells.
Exactly. That's why the seashells.
But moving on from his early kind of short film world, he did do a bunch of TV movie documentaries and stuff like that, and TV movies, direct an episode of a TV series, more TV movies. But Shivers is where we want to go next, because that's where things kind of really kick off into Cronenberg world.
Or they come from within, as it's sometimes known as.
That is very true.
Or the parasite killers.
Yes.
I like Shivers the best.
And yeah, Shivers It's a movie I recently saw because it recently got a Blu-ray release from that.
Shout Factory.
What's that line?
Vestrone?
Yeah, there's the Vestron video series.
Oh yeah, Vestron did it. My mistake.
Yeah, and it's put out by Lionsgate, isn't it? It's like a
It's
subsidiary.
Lionsgate. It's Lionsgate.
Yes, it is Lionsgate. So that's the way I have it here. And this just came out last September, so it's not even a year old yet. And it's a cheaper release, but it's a really good release. I've rewatched it a second time now with the audio commentary with Cronenberg. Very interesting on just like and the making of this movie and how low budget it was and just the different tricks and different things they were doing with it. And this is when we start getting into this Cronenberg world of horror with, the horror within people and the parasites and the body horror and the sexual stuff that he delves into throughout his career. This is where kind of it all really starts in a very rudimentary way.
Well, one of the interesting things about that film is it's the same year the book High Rise by J.G. Ballard came out. And allegedly, he had read any Ballard at that point. He had read William Burroughs, of course, but it is very, very similar to High Rise. The story is very similar.
Yeah.
The idea of, it takes place in an apartment building and
everyone goes crazy and
everyone goes crazy. I mean, in this case, it's interesting because it's not quite a zombie movie, but yet you can kind of put it in that genre, if you will.
It's kind of a mutant movie, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know about this movie, basically the residents of a high-rise building start becoming infected with these little parasite things that were
slugs. Yeah.
Little slug type things that were kind of moved along on wires by the production team. And they said they basically become these sex-crazed, zombies, if you will. These fiends, you know what I mean? And it's just crazy. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this movie. And my favorite part, kind of spoiling it a little bit, just like the end and kind of like, there's always like an apocalyptic type, ending, or, he would even take that further in his next film that we're going to talk about. But for Shivers, what's the release look like for you, Ian, over there? Is there a Blu-ray release?
It's Arrow did it quite a few years back. I think it's pretty similar. I think it might be a couple different exclusives, but I think that's the Cronenberg commentary. I'll get it up. Actually, I'll go to DVD Compare and have the Cronenberg library available to click on when need be. But yeah, they got
better. You have better artwork there than I think we have here.
You got like the original.
Artwork's not bad.
It's the original poster there.
I always prefer original poster art. I think I've said that before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steven, Shivers.
Yeah, you have what you have is you could have a video essay. You've got a sort of making of from 2008 and a 2014 making of. And then obviously like a booklet and promotional gallery and trailer. Actually, you got the better extras. You got the Cronenberg commentary, a recent interview of Cronenberg and like actors and crews. So it's both. Both. If you're a fan, you might want both.
Right. But Steven, how do you feel about Shivers?
It's a way more interesting, I think, beginning to start with Cronenberg. I mean, if you really want to go deep and go to them short films, go for it. But like,
Shivers, I think, is a better place to start.
Shivers might be the best and most more accessible way to start into his films if you want to get the early look, because
I would start with Videodrome of the early ones.
Ooh, I love the film, but I don't know. I know some people that have a hard time figuring that movie out. So maybe something. I just feel like maybe something a little less complicated, less surreal, might be better.
I'm talking specifically the early films. I would start with Videodrome. I think
I'll say this: Videodrome is probably the best of his early films.
Oh, it's definitely his best.
Until you get to The Fly, I think it's the best of all of that 70s and 80s, early 80s.
Hands down.
It's definitely the best, but I'm thinking for people that haven't gotten into Cronenberg
someone
yet.
Who doesn't know Cronenberg at all.
Yeah.
You know?
I would definitely start with The Fly or Videodrome for your first Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
See, my first Cronenberg,
I think Videodrome may have been my first. I think my dad showed it to me.
Yeah, I think technically, we talked about this before. I think technically my first Cronenberg was probably History of Violence, because that's when I was growing up. That was the movies coming out. But when I got past late Cronenberg, my first early Cronenberg was probably Scanners. And Scanners is kind of like, once again, it's kind of a straightforward watch that you can get into, but it also has deeper themes but it is definitely, but Shivers is also like an early one where it's got his themes of like, sex and violence, but in a more straightforward way, not as surreal. So, I mean, like, if you want to get into his surreal stuff, then yes, Videodrome is like, that's the way to go. But like,
it's full tilt.
I just don't know.
Also, the acting's just really good in that too.
Oh yeah, of course, James Wood. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's great, but it's
no one played this sleazebag better than James Woods.
Yeah, because he is
one.
Some people don't.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not into
he's kind of playing to real life then.
Yes,
but if you're not maybe you're not even, somebody that's into surreal stuff like David Lynch or stuff like that. Like, you need an easier access. I just, to me personally, maybe Shivers or maybe even Scanners would be an easier.
I would say maybe The Fly. The Fly would probably be the best one if you've not seen.
It would be the easiest one, definitely.
Yeah. We'll get to it, but kind of getting back. Rabid would be his next film.
Yeah.
And Rabid is a fascinating movie to watch now that we're dealing with a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's kind of the outbreak happens, and I'm like, there's a lot of parallels here. There's a lot of parallels here with Rabid.
It's not quite Contagion, but.
No, not quite, but it's a smaller version of that, and kind of seeing like, okay, there's patient zero, and then we're spreading, and then the public panicking, and it just grows and grows. But I found I liked Rabid more on a rewatch than I did when I originally saw it. And
yeah, I would say that's the case with most of the early ones, except for Videodrome.
Yes. And Rabid, for those of you who... this is more of a zombie or even a vampiric type film from him. Seems to be his vampire film if we had one. Basically, what happens is this young woman has this experimental plastic surgery, and then as a result of it, she starts craving blood. She's got to get blood. But what happens is she keeps infecting people, and then that infection spreads to another person. And it's kind of interesting the way he did it. He didn't do it in the traditional way of biting people, I love the designs of the Cronenbergian creatures, because there's always a twist on what you assume is the traditional way of things. There's always that Cronenberg extra flavor that he has in his movies. And this film was interesting, just the design of the way in which people infect other people is you wouldn't notice someone because like the way in which they affect someone is like through some type of needle, like hidden needle within them or stinger or something. Yet again, playing on the Cronenberg, body horror type stuff, where and he's always dealing with like openings and orifices on people in very many ways, constantly. But for those of you who are interested in the physical media world of Rabid, there is a collector's edition from Shout Factory here in the US. It's a little, maybe not a little expensive, but it's got a lot of features on it, which I think is really cool. It's got 3 audio commentaries, and interviews and all kind of stuff like that. And something we didn't bring up, Ivan Reitman was a producer on, I think, both Shivers and Rabid, and I think he was like the music supervisor for Shivers.
Yeah.
And also Howard Shore apparently scored a lot of Cronenberg's films. And I did not know that at all.
It's all of them except for The Brood, I think, and Dead Zone.
Yeah.
Because Michael Kamen did Dead Zone.
Yeah, and he was saying in the commentary for Shivers where, they couldn't afford a composer or whatever, so they just had like Ivan Reitman like do like music or whatever.
Yeah, just get like a early synth out and
Yeah, early synth stuff. And yeah, I think you said it was like I don't know if it was like 19 of his work or something like that. He collaborated with Howard Shore. Very fascinating. Kind of that same. You don't necessarily associate Ivan Reitman with Cronenberg type horror films.
Yeah,
you remember him from Ghostbusters.
But he is a Canadian. He's a Canadian, and that's where he got his start.
That's their
and apparently
connection.
he was the one that got Marilyn Chambers for Rabid. Because
yes.
But initially he wanted Cronenberg wanted Sissy Spacek to be the lead role.
Interesting.
Which I think maybe would have been a better acting choice, maybe, but I think Ivan Reitman said.
But she's good. Marilyn Chambers is good in it. You know.
But the reason he wanted her in there was for the sex appeal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Since his movies are very sexual, I guess for the aesthetic and ability to sell the movie in that regard. But also, I think Sissy Spacek at this time, her star was pretty big.
Yeah, because she had done Badlands, which I think was the film he was thinking of. And
then she had done Carrie, I think.
Before.
She had done Carrie, I think. Right before
Rabid? Yeah.
But I think Marilyn Chambers was the first porn star turned, normal actress, I think.
Yeah. Which, of course, was probably very controversial in Canada,
Yeah, if they were pissed about Shivers, Rabid must have sent them into a fury.
I think the receipts on both films made them be like, okay, we're making money off these.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people don't realize that these movies were actually very successful in box office.
I mean, Shivers was the most successful Canadian film at the time.
Yeah,
it's
at the time it was the only Canadian film at the time.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Cronenberg is kind of the epicenter of Canadian film industry, as we know it.
Yeah.
But Rabid is really good and much more appreciated now given our time.
Have you guys seen the dreadful remake?
No, I didn't even know there was a remake.
I didn't even.
I was
until I was looking this up.
I was at this film festival called Grimfest. It's a genre festival in Manchester. There's some cute homages to Cronenberg stuff in it, like the doctor's called William Burroughs in it and stuff.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
And I think one of the doctors is called Cronenberg or something. It's got some quite nice effects, but it's not a good film.
Okay.
But I don't like any of those sisters' films. I mean, they're not very good filmmakers.
Is that what's their name?
The
Saska sisters?
Yeah, they also did American Mary, which is not a good film.
Yeah, I think I've seen American Mary. I think that was the only one I saw of those. But getting back to Cronenberg, he decided to take a complete left turn out into something that
in a car, not really in a fast car.
Yeah, literally in a car. Where he created Fast Company, which is it's a race car movie, but it's specifically about drag race car or the race car world. And this movie, I didn't mind this movie at all.
Yeah, it's not
watching
bad
it. It's not a bad movie.
It's not.
It's not bad.
I don't understand the hate for it. It's like it's basically like the movie Over the Top, but with race car driving. Because it's like every chance they get, they play like a really Americana song, and like they're like driving on the road, and it's like real men, just like just singing something, and then they race each other, and then they go back to like having sex with women and driving on the road.
Yeah. I mean, the only issue I have with it is I felt the film was a little anticlimactic, but other than that, I mean, the acting's fine, the plot's fine. It's an entertaining 91-minute movie. I mean, it's not bad.
It's like a drive-in movie. It's like
obviously. If you're going to this movie, you're like, oh, David Cronenberg, I love Rabid, I love Shivers, and then you get this, you're going to be disappointed. That happens now all the time with certain directors or whatever.
It has one of my favorite Cronenberg scenes in it, actually. Is the oil scene, the oily set scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, that's out of nowhere.
He just grabs an oil can off the inside of he's like with two girls and they're both naked. He just drips motor oil on her chest.
Oh yeah, that was so random. Oh my goodness.
That's not what that's for.
I know it's not. Also, that stuff
that can't be good for your skin.
Good for. It's also that's not healthy. You can't be around that stuff. It's chemicals. But Fast Company, sadly, only has a Blu-ray release here in the United States, in Canada, and in Germany. And the Blu-ray that came out here in the United States is from 2009 and put out by Blue Underground. It's still available.
Yeah, that's what I got.
It looks fine. It looks fine.
Yeah, it looks yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still available. So I mean, if you want it, you can get it.
I mean, it's not a film I think anyone wants in 4K. You know,
like I wouldn't shell out like 20, 30, 40 bucks for a special edition of Fast Company. I think here it's like in the $15 range, and that may be a little bit too much. But this movie does.
I think I paid a tenner for it on eBay or something.
Yeah.
Which would probably be around what our $15
the
conversion rate is. The movie does have the late John Saxon in it, playing a complete scumbag owner of the race car company.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course John Saxon was in Nightmare on Elm Street. He was in Enter the Dragon.
The girl,
he was in Black
who
Christmas.
knew too much, the Mario Bava film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an entertaining movie for the most part. I mean, it's
a very straight-laced plot. I mean, basically, you have this like super successful macho veteran race car guy who's kind of getting pushed out for the younger version, and then there's all kind of like politics and nonsense that goes into that.
Trying to use this guy as just his name, though he's not as good of a driver as he used to be. But then there's this young up and comer guy that is trying to get his start, but he's kind of in his way.
What I really liked about it is they didn't do that cliche nonsense where like, oh, this young guy and this older guy have a rivalry against one another, and it's like they gotta like, the older guy wants to teach the younger kid a lesson. There wasn't that typical stuff. If anything, they end up working together to take down the real bad guy in John Saxon and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really interesting.
And the ending is hilarious because, first of all, they're just going to commit murder. Like they just it's going to blow somebody up with oil.
There's like double murder. There's a lot of murder in this movie.
At the end, it turns into a damn action movie. Like just cars blowing up other cars.
Yeah, it's crazy. But then after this, Cronenberg came back to where he started, I guess, with The Brood. And this is a film I only had seen when the Criterion Collection released their Blu-ray a couple of years back. So this was an interesting rewatch for me. For me personally, I watched 14 Cronenberg films in a row. A lot of rewatches for the preparation. So this was all interesting for me.
I only watched Dead Zone and prep, but I've seen all of these so many times for the most part.
I had seen all of them before, but it had been so long, and once I started, I was like, I'll just keep going.
I was going to do M Butterfly, but then I just didn't have time.
Yeah, I ended up doing M Butterfly and Crash. So I went like from the beginning up until The Fly, and then I didn't watch Dead Ringers because I already seen it, and then Naked Lunch I had already seen, but I hadn't seen M Butterfly or Crash, so I watched those two, and then the other ones I had seen, the newer ones I had seen so many times. We did a whole episode on Existence back on Cinema Discovery Project, so that was fresh in my mind. So that was kind of my preparation behind it. But The Brood, rewatching The Brood was another one where I was like, it's better than I remember.
Yeah.
I haven't seen The Brood in a long time, and it's the one Cronenberg film I didn't like.
You got to be patient with it. That's what I found.
Yeah, it's a bit slow, and there's a really nasty streak in it because it's obviously it's about his divorce.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a very personal one for him.
Very personal. This is a personal film for Cronenberg. A lot of straight thematic stuff connecting to what was going on in his life. It's a very I guess he was just dealing with a lot of personal stuff.
Dealing with the custody of his kids and things like that.
And just a lot of infighting and stuff like that. So basically, the plot of this movie...
he's always said it's his Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah. Coincidentally, I think they came out the same year.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
1979. You can watch Kramer versus Kramer, you can watch The Brood. You get the same. You get the same out of both. And so basically this guy has his wife is in this kind of mental hospital, psychiatric hospital, rehabilitation hospital, and it's run by Oliver Reed, who I thought was really good in this movie.
He's always good.
Things aren't quite as they seem. There's a lot of like secrecy behind it, maybe controversial stuff going on behind it. but I guess it's a successful hospital or whatever because they have a lot of patients. But there's just seedy stuff happening there, and so this guy is basically investigating what's going on there. But what keeps happening is people keep getting murdered by these little creatures, if you will. Reminds me a little bit of Don't Look. Don't Look. Not Don't Look Now.
Yeah, no,
it's Don't Look Now. The Nicholas Rogue film.
It's Don't Look Now.
Yeah. Yes, and it reminded me a lot of that type of creature design, or person design, or whatever you want to call it.
I'm sure he was a fan of that film. It would definitely be a sort of genre film.
Third act twists, yeah.
And it's a very arty film for that type of film as well, which would respond to sort of Cronenberg's sort of film sensibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it would make sense because they're literally dressed in like the same type of jacket, colors, and same type of everything. But either way, people keep getting murdered, and it's all people like around him that keep getting murdered, isn't it? It's like his daughter's teacher gets murdered, the grandmother gets murdered, and it's just all people that's happening. So he's trying to uncover this mystery, if you will. But it's a slow plotting movie, and I'll say this for a lot of Cronenberg, as surreal as he is, most of his movies have a pretty straight central plot. Like there are things happening. It's not quite like David Lynch, where David Lynch some of his films don't really have a plot, and they're just going into crazy lines.
I would somewhat disagree about David Lynch. I think the thing with David Lynch is first of all his films are actually much more linear than they think. People think.
I'm thinking, yeah, I know what you mean.
And I mean, they're all very much basically a film noir plot. Almost all of his films, to some extent.
Yeah, I'm a huge David Lynch fan. I would just find myself comparing Lynch to Cronenberg because they were making movies around the same time.
And they're both called David.
Yes, they are both called David, and they're both like very enigmatic type individuals. David Lynch being more enigmatic than Cronenberg is.
And they both stopped dyeing their hair quite young.
Yes, they did. They just kind of gave over to their aging. But like we said, The Brood is a very slow plotting film, but it has a third act twist that I think always like gets to people. But you have to wait for it, and you get certain reveals as you go along. You can kind of put it together a bit until like towards the end, where basically Oliver Reed just kind of has a monologue which just describes like the whole mystery, and it's like there you go. There it is.
Yeah, but it's one I should revisit. I had a sort of reaction to it. I didn't like it, but I should be giving it a shot. I've got the second sight Blu-ray I got for quite cheap at some point, so I will revisit that at some point.
Yeah, I need to revisit that one too. I mean, I think I remember liking it, but I don't. It's been a while since I've seen it, so it's not as fresh for me. So
yeah, and the Criterion Blu-ray, which came out 2015 now, that's a while back. The cover of that, Steven, I know you've seen it, and Ian, you've probably seen it as well. That spoils the climax of the movie. It's spoiling the climax of the movie. But whoever thought of that idea?
Well, there's the Planet of the Apes cover, famously.
Yeah, same thing. But let's move on from The Brood. Let's go to one of Steven's favorites, and that is Scanners, where we get the one and only Michael Ironside, young Michael Ironside, is in this film.
Patrick
McGowan as well, from the Prisoner miniseries back in the day. And what's interesting, the protagonist of the movie is Stephen Lack, and I don't think he gets quite remembered.
Yeah, no one remembers the lead character in Scanners.
Yeah, it's very true. Not the best of actors, but hey, he was in this movie. But yeah, now we've kind of hit the 1980s, and this is where Cronenberg kind of starts reigning supreme, is in the 80s. 1981, and so what happens is there are these group of people who are quote-unquote scanners, and they have basically, was it
telepathic ability.
Telekinesis?
Yeah.
I always get telekinesis and telepathy confused. One, you can move stuff, and the other one, you can like read people's minds or manipulate
they
people's
can kind
minds.
of do both. That's the thing.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So
we're talking about make-believe things. So, I mean, it's
yeah, I know. I mean, be kind of cool, but I wish I had them. But so there's this company that is trying to like learn about scanners or trying to utilize them in a specific way, if I remember correctly. And Patrick McGowan is like the head scientist, and he recruits the what's his name, the John, did I just say John Lack? Yeah, the Stephen Lack character of Cameron Vale to become like part of this program, and he's trying to like get funding for this program and sell this program. But of course, there's a guy above him who's doing all kind of corrupt stuff when it comes to this company and trying to like weaponize scanners and all that kind of stuff. Basically, and Michael Ironside like works for him, but Michael Ironside is basically the bad guy of this movie, and he's just out here basically like killing other scanners if they won't join his cause or something. And we get some really cool special effects in this movie. Everybody knows that it's a GIF now all over the world on the internet, where the guy's head exploding.
I think it was in the trailer.
Was it in the trailer?
I think so, yeah.
But I always love like the learning about how they did that and what they used to, make the fake head and have it explode and all that stuff. That's really cool.
Is it Bo Jean did it, or whatever the guy's name is, the guy that did the Thing?
I think you may be right.
Yeah, everybody talks about the exploding head thing, but one of my favorite scenes in this movie was the telephone call that he has, and then like the phone gets melted and like like from the through the power lines. Like I always really loved that scene. But it's a cool. I would say, if anything, I mean, it's not like all around one of his greatest movies, but it's atmospheric. I think atmospherically, it's a cool movie. And with, of course, the effects and things, it's got some cool things.
There's a lot of cool political themes in it, because there's like good guy scanners and bad guy scanners. There's like, and there's the group that he hooks up with that are like the good people that are getting hunted by the bad people. It's a very cool type of good versus evil type movie. But of course, there's also like corporate evilness as well that works into it, plays into it. Some cool special effects that are in the film as well. It's good. That climax of the movie's dope as hell.
Mind battle.
Yeah, mind battle. And yeah, it looks funny that when they make the faces when they're scanning people, it looks ridiculous, but I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, great artwork has come out of this movie, though. That's one thing with scanners. The Blu-ray, the Criterion Blu-ray for scanners, the artwork on that looks amazing, and that's something that really caught me when I first watched it for the first time. Unfortunately, this has happened, I think, to a couple of Cronenberg's films. Is he'll make the first one and then they'll come out with like sequels later on.
Well, speaking of those, I actually just reviewed the Scanner Cop films.
Oh, okay.
Which aren't actually bad. They're actually kind of worth seeing. In sort of Scanner Cop, it's kind of like scanners are just like a phenomenon. And he's like this cop who's a scanner, and like there's like a rogue scientist in the first one. And the second one is like a sort of serial killer scanner, and they're not bad for like a direct-to-video '90s movie. They're actually kind of good, and the special effects are pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool to hear. But I know they came out with the Scanners 2 and 3, I think.
Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome just did the Scanner Cop films.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So they came out after the two sequels to the original film.
Yeah. The first one's directed by the producer of the first Scanners.
Gotcha.
Oh, and I think overseas there's a Scanners released by Second Sight.
Yeah, that's the one I actually have both of them actually. And
nice.
Let me see what's on. Just sort of interviews with the cast and crew, basically. That's about it. Just 5 interviews with various people.
Yeah.
I would say probably go with the Criterion if you're going to buy it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the Criterion's probably the more well-rounded release. But yeah.
Yeah,
they generally are.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, and I have the original release, the one that was the Blu-ray DVD combo that they were doing back in like 2014.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
I miss those days. I miss those Digipack days. It does have actually quite a few special features. Lengthy too, 23 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, kind of get a little... Like, and of course, this does have stereo, like I said.
And an essay by Kim Newman.
Oh, nice. Nice.
There he is.
What do you know? But now we're moving, now we're going for broke. Now we're going for, I think, one of the most... When I saw this movie, even rewatching this movie, it's still a movie that I'm like, damn, now that's a bold movie. And this is probably one of my favorite, probably the most highest rated, I think, of any of Cronenberg movies for me, and that is Videodrome. This was one of the earliest movies I watched from him, and this was when I was like young. I probably saw this for the first time over a decade ago in like my 20s, and I was just getting into surreal cinema, just getting into people like David Lynch, etc., etc. And I watched this movie, and it still blows my mind to this day. And now watching it within the prism of Cronenberg, I was just like, okay, now he's like unleashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he was just unleashed with this movie.
Oh yeah,
just going for everything.
I mean, it is such a step up from all his previous films.
Yeah, it's like he's finally.
He has
like the shackles are off. You know what I mean? Yeah, like he finally
has enough money to do what he wants.
Yes, this was the first Hollywood film that he ever did. I think this was backed by Universal.
Well, none of his films are really Hollywood movies.
Yeah, I meant like having some type of mainstream backing.
Yeah.
He's not really Hollywood, but
I mean,
this is when he's starting to get some money.
I mean, he's only shot one film partially in the U.S.
Maps to the Stars, yeah. I believe.
Yes.
Everything else has been in Canada.
Or overseas, wherever. Because some Naked Lunches in Tangiers and the new one's in Greece.
Yeah.
Very nice. And this film stars James Woods and Debbie Harry prominently. I guess probably the two most well-known actors or actresses in this film. And to even explain this movie to someone is difficult. It's one of those movies that you just have to experience for yourself, I think. But roughly, James Woods is a TV station programmer at like a small Canadian like UHF type station.
So public access.
Yeah, it's something like that where he's looking for like the most wildest stuff to put on.
The most fucked up sexy video he can find.
Yeah. And he's just not finding what he wants. He's not finding it until. And
there's that great bit where he's got like that Japanese porn, which they shot a lot of that.
Yeah, which is like
so tame,
so mundane. I mean, not to drift too quickly into the pornography world, but you know, there's different levels of pornography depending on people's tastes and preferences, et cetera, et cetera. But what he's getting pitched is not what he thinks people want to see, or even what he wants to see.
Well, also something people might not know is like back in those days on cable. After you would have like let's say you had HBO, right? Is you would have like, you know, the normal movies, and then by like 1 or 2 you would have like sort of softcore porn stuff, which you don't have at all anymore. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That model went all the way up to like a couple of years ago, and it kind of died only within the last decade, where HBO got rid of all of their late night adult stuff. And I think a lot of the cable companies have done that now, because right now cable companies like HBO, Showtime, et cetera, are kind of reigning supreme when it comes to television programming for a huge demographic. You know what I mean? And it's not like back when I was younger, HBO was more for adult people. And now HBO has Sesame Street. You know what I mean? They have everything from Sesame Street to, you know, R-rated blockbuster movies. They have got everything. And I guess they just kind of got rid of that over the last decade or so. But you're right. That's the way it was. And this movie is kind of also interesting, just seeing how old and how far technology has come from the early 80s till now when it comes to like everything. You know, everything. Like he's like, I mean, it's about a VHS tape essentially.
Yeah, it's like I think it's Betamax.
No. Yes, it is. It's Betamax. You're right. Yes.
Betamax, which is a format that got beaten out by VHS.
I think even by the time the film was out, Betamax had kind of died.
Yeah, and ironically enough, Betamax gave you better quality of picture than VHS did, but VHS ended up winning.
Yeah,
it was the same way with DVD and Laserdisc. Laserdisc gave you kind of a better quality, but DVD ended up beating that out eventually. And then, of course, we have what we have now. But anywho, in Videodrome, he first sees the, essentially, I would say, kind of a stuff film, if you will, through a satellite hookup, for about a minute. And then he starts becoming hooked on that and wanting to not only see it, but kind of delve even more and more into it. And he becomes kind of obsessed, and it kind of unlocks sexual urges within him that he didn't probably know he had. And it takes you down a very masochistic type world of sexuality. And so that's already controversial to be putting on screen back in the early 80s. And yeah, so the film is his kind of psychological journey, and he's having all kind of visions, and the effects work in this movie is insanely amazing. When it comes to just like the pulsating television at times, when it comes to him inserting a Betamax tape in his stomach, it's just insane movie. And the movie is so prophetic because it's all like anti consumerism and like anti-corporation and like technology is going to ruin the world.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
all
about
this kind of stuff.
Our relationship to
technology,
yeah. Our relationship to media, how we consume that stuff and how we rely on it and how we.
And how it may not be good for us because literally, and
also how it relies on your own emotional reaction to it.
Yes,
It's about and it can lead you down different
about the
ways
back and forth stimulation of the thing itself, and it becoming almost one. Which is a lot of what he does in his films is about how we merge with technology.
Technology, sexuality, violence are all like converging together, and we see it now more than ever. I mean, we are kind of beholden to technology now more than ever, and it's a gateway to all kinds of things, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And this movie was, 25 years before social media and the internet was really around in its prominence now. So I always thought this movie was brilliantly ahead of its time and bold as all hell. And I've loved it ever since I first saw it. I owned it on the original Criterion DVD I think I had.
Which was made to look like a Betamax.
Which was made to look like a Betamax, which is really cool design. I love that. And yeah, I know it's come out in several different forms on DVD and Blu-ray. All across.
The two versions everywhere. To have is the Aero and the Criterion one, and they both have very good extras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have that fantastic commentary that's kind of split between different people. Because the James Woods and Debbie Harry would not record together, and you can tell. And then you've got a Cronenberg commentary. You have a couple documentaries. It was Rick Baker who did Videodrome.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense because he was doing like what's a Werewolf in London, stuff like that at the time. Yeah, and the effects work in this movie is amazing. There's a whole effects extra feature on the Criterion. I think there's two of them. It's called Forging the Flesh, and then Effects Men.
I think
one runs 28 minutes, one runs 20 minutes long, and that's really cool. But yeah, it's really tough to get into this movie without spoiling it, and even if spoiling it, it's nothing compared to watching it for the first time and just kind of having your mind blown in it.
It's the first one where the William Burroughs influence really comes through more than the others.
Yes, and then what is interesting
because all the themes are what Burroughs was about, essentially.
Yeah. And I mean, he would, of course, do Naked Lunch later on, which is a direct connection to William Burroughs.
And I think he had optioned Naked Lunch around this time. Because Burroughs saw Videodrome while he was given a copy or something, and he liked it and was like, okay, if someone's going to make a film out of my book, then I think
makes sense.
I think it was like he gave him $1, and then if it was ever going to be picked up, he would get some real money from it.
Yeah, he optioned it for like $1
because he thought no one was ever going to make a film of Naked Lunch. Understandably,
it's one of those unfilmable books, I guess you could say.
Well, he's done a couple of those. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, but let's move on to. Okay, so he kind of explodes with Videodrome in every sense.
And Universal hated it too. Universal hated the film and cut it.
Oh, really? Oh. Yes, yeah. Well, it was also a box office bomb as well. Yeah. And they put a couple million into it, and I don't even think it made half of what they spent to make the movie.
I think it turned a profit in Europe and in Japan.
Oh.
So, okay. But in the US, it was a flop.
So then he takes it down a notch after this big Videodrome explosion with The Dead Zone, the Stephen King adaptation. Of course, this film stars Christopher Walken and what's his name?
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen, yes, Martin Sheen is in it. Herbert Lom. Speaking of, I talked about the Pink Panther films earlier. Herbert Lom was in those films. Tom Skerritt, for those Top Gun fans out there. Tom Skerritt's in the movie. Yeah, this is, we talked a little bit about this when we did our Stephen King adaptation episode for Cinema Discovery Project, Once Upon a Time. Basically, Christopher Walken falls into a coma, wakes up, and he now has powers where he can kind of see the future when he touches someone. Like if he holds someone's hand, he can see like their immediate future or something connected to them. It's kind of the plot of the movie.
Yeah. And then there's a very Trump-like politician.
Yes. Martin Sheen basically plays Donald Trump as we know him now.
Oh, I mean, Reagan is very close to him as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and when you see his office, there's a little picture of Reagan in the background.
Yeah, and basically what happens is, Christopher Walken initially goes around trying to like help people. Like he tries to help the cops find a murderer or tries and stuff like that, or a murderer, and he ends up kind of getting traumatized with that. And then he kind of quits doing that, and then he kind of gets back into trying to change the world or change things when he touches Martin Sheen's hand, and he finds out that Martin Sheen would probably be the worst president ever because he would basically start World War III with Russia. And so he tries to stop that. And that's kind of the plot of the movie.
It's really probably one of his most straightforward movies.
So straightforward. It's such a straight-laced movie. Not bad though. I don't think it's a bad movie.
It's a very good film. I
think it's very good.
Yeah.
I love the poster.
It's kind of the closest. I guess Fly is his next film, but it's kind of the closest to like a normal Hollywood movie he did, I would say.
Maybe it was a reaction to how much Videodrome flopped, maybe.
What was the same year? Made them both in the same year.
Well, you're right. So probably had nothing to do with it. Probably just ended up being that way. Maybe doing one for them and one for him.
Yeah, I say when we were going over the Stephen King adaptations, it's certainly one of the better ones to ever come around.
I think it's one of
especially for its time.
I think it's one of the very few Stephen Kings that was actually better than his book.
Yeah, possibly. I haven't read the book, but
no, I've read Salem's Lot, but I haven't seen the was it the TV movie or miniseries?
Yes, it's a TV movie, I think, technically.
I mean, I read The Shining, and the Kubrick movie is rather different. I've noticed that, but that's a whole other story.
Well, I think the case of the book, I haven't read the Dead Zone book, but from what I read when I was doing my research was basically the book's more episodic. And then basically the writer says, not Cronenberg who wrote it, they just streamlined the hell out of it and kind of just got to the point of the book, while the book's like 450 pages or whatever. And actually, especially Stanley Donen was the original director on Dead Zone.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
And someone else was on it as well.
And of course, we talked about this before in the Cinema Discovery Project episode, but they did do the TV series many years later.
Yes, they did.
Anthony Michael Hall.
Yes.
So and that show was fine.
And it's also the first appearance of Castle Rock in Stephen King's universe.
Yes, they did mention Castle Rock in it. Yes. What is interesting is you mentioned the TV series. When I was watching the movie, I was like, this would make a good TV series. Because it seems like it would be episodic. It felt episodic. Like he went from doing this with his ability versus doing this with his ability, and it was kind of like, moment to moment, procedure to procedure, and so I was like, that would make a good TV series. I'm surprised they haven't revived it yet, because they've been reviving a lot of Stephen King's work over the last couple of years in different forms and different places.
I hope they don't.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I hope they don't.
Who knows?
And actually, Zulawski, the guy who did Possession, wrote a script.
Oh.
Which would have been insane. And also, Michael Cimino was at one point considered.
Wow. That would have been a movie.
And John Badham was on. And they wanted
John Badham.
They wanted Bill Murray initially.
Yeah, that would have been
okay. That would have been interesting.
Weird.
Christopher Walken has that just enough weirdness about him to pull off this character,
and that hair,
of course. The ice is gonna break.
He has that look about him that just, I think, not
like
that Bill Murray couldn't, do. He can do serious, obviously, but at the time he was mostly known as the comedian. So I don't.
It's around the same time as like Razor's Edge.
Yeah, I was going to say Razor's Edge.
So I think he was trying to find a dramatic film to do at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone like Christopher Walken came up to me, like the way he was looking in the dead zone, and he told me that he could like see the future, I'd probably believe him. He had that look about him. But moving on from the dead zone,
and also, how good is Martin Sheen in it?
Yeah, as a scumbag, as a scumbag politician.
And
so good.
And real quick, the new transfer on the Shout Factory looks great.
Yeah, it does actually look really good, and there are quite a few special features on it as well. New special features. There's I think, was that 3 commentaries on it now? Yeah, there's 3. No, oh goodness, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 new commentaries on it, and then there's 2 new special features as well. And then I think there's some older special features. There is a lot on this disc, and it's on one disc out of all of anything. This has also been released in the Australia through Via Vision, and
in August,
in their line. And isn't there a rumor, Stephen, that Arrow may release this?
I would assume so.
It possibly, yeah. I mean, it's
because.
It seems like they're going to put out probably a 4K, probably. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd be surprised because I don't think it has a UK release.
Nope.
No, not at all. And this movie hadn't been released on Blu-ray really ever until like the last 5 years or so.
Release.
Oh, there's been a bunch of German releases.
There was a Spanish release back in 2015.
Well, Spanish releases, whatever, if that's even a real release.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't quite understand how they get away with it in Spain. I don't quite understand it.
There's some releases in Spain that I'm like, what?
No, like half the releases are bootlegs, like the full-blown bootlegs.
They must be. They must be.
They are. They're actual bootlegs.
Because they have, what's the Peter Bogdanovich film? The one that I wish was on Blu-ray, but it's not. And and I think there's a Spanish release of it. And I think there may be a Spanish release of something else too.
True Lies is a Spanish.
Yes. Yes, there is.
This is obviously not an official release.
No, but so basically, there's been quote unquote real releases of this only within the last couple of years, and now it's like that company's releasing it, this company's releasing it, but they may have special features. So it's one of those things where basically pick your preference essentially.
Yeah. And the Australian one has like a new feature-length documentary on it. It's a lot more Cronenberg stuff on the Australian disc.
Okay. I know there's a difference between that and the Shout Factory one. I think I just went with the Shout Factory one because it just came out. And it may have a different transfer than the Australian one.
Yeah.
The Australian one may be a 2K transfer, and this may be a 4K transfer. I don't know if I read that wrong, so don't quote me on that out there.
I'll get the Australian one, and then if Arrow does one, I'll get the Arrow one.
Yeah.
All right.
So now we're on to now we're back to a heavy hitter, The Fly. This movie's absolutely, I think, probably his most well-known commercial film, And I think this movie is like astoundingly amazing. It's a remake of the Fly that was
kind of remake. Ideas
kind of remake, kind of not really. No, it's not even close in terms of the only same thing is that someone is slowly turning into a fly. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
And Vincent Price started it back in the 50s, I believe.
Yeah, it's like 55.
But this is really a great film.
And very moving. I mean, it's got a real emotional core to it, which is not
found it. Yeah, you're right.
Which you don't think of when you think of Cronenberg, because it's all kind of slightly stilted at times.
Yeah, I found myself being incredibly moved emotionally because the film is very sad, and you don't get a lot of that true kind of hard-hitting emotion with a film that is typically seen as just a good horror film. You know what I mean? Horror films typically don't spend that time building that emotion, building that structure within it, but Cronenberg's of a different kind of filmmaker, and you can kind of tell with The Fly. The Fly in the hands of a lesser filmmaker would be a much lesser film.
Like The Fly 2.
Like The Fly 2. This film was so emotional, so tragic, so Shakespeareanly tragic in many ways, and just really sad by the end. But talk about special effects work. Some of the best I think you'll ever see is in this movie. The degradation of going from the really attractive Jeff Goldblum to all the way down to what he became, and seeing that gradual decline physically is amazing special effects work. Some of the best you'll ever see. Of course, Gina Davis is in the film as well.
The heart of the movie is their relationship, is just...
And you believe it. Yeah. It's very believable.
And then, weren't they a couple at that point, I think?
I think in real life they did date.
Oh, they were? Yeah. I did not know that. Their chemistry is very palpable and very believing on screen. And
I think if you made that film, you would. I think you would kind of fall in love with each other.
You need to, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, isn't this Gina Davis's first film?
It's one of her first, certainly.
Let's see. I'm on her IMDb now, and oh no, she was in Tootsie. I forgot. Yeah, she was in Tootsie. She was in Fletch. So no, not her first film. But although she would,
but it's kind of it's her first kind of big role.
Yeah, because she wouldn't be in Beetlejuice until after this.
Yeah, which I'm sure is why she got Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, Jeff Goldblum went on to be Jeff Goldblum and
he was already Jeff Goldblum by that point. I mean, he had done.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Has he ever not been Jeff Goldblum? Well, at least as we know him.
Have you guys got the deep cover Blu-ray recently?
Yes, I watched it. A friend let me borrow it, and yeah. Speaking of Jeff Goldblum,
what a performance! What a great film that is!
Kind of an amazing performance by both him and Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, the fish is great in that.
But Steven, what are your thoughts on The Fly?
Well, yeah, I mean it's it's one of them films that you can go back to. It's a seminal film in general when you're talking about this genre. So I mean, it's one I've gone back to many times, and as Ian alluded to, the sequels ain't much to look at. I mean, I never saw them. I do have the Shout Factory release of all the Fly films.
Good thing you mentioned that.
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, not really. The sequels are not really worth going back to. But I would say go back to the original, though it isn't the same. The Vincent Price movie is entertaining, but yeah, I mean, The Fly is, as Ian said, maybe The Fly is a good starting point. If you need to get into Cronenberg, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing bad you can really say about this movie for the genre. It's probably perfect.
Yeah, so. It's of course, and staying with Cronenberg's kind of usual stuff. It's a very sexual film. It's a very physical film in terms of the body horror.
Movies, especially in this time, you just smell the sweat.
Everyone's
everything's glistening.
Yeah, everything's glistening, and Jeff Goldblum has a classic '80s haircut in this film, if I remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Gina Davis looks amazing. She's stunning in this movie.
I remember when the show Heroes was on. the one character basically is ripping off the journey of Goldblum in this movie, the scientist.
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, they just.
It's pretty terrible. It was a poorly written storyline.
Yeah,
it's a story for a different time, but I got a lot of thoughts. But yeah, in terms of physical media world, there was an early Blu-ray release from 2007.
That's the one I have.
Around.
That's the one I have.
I think that may be the one I have as well. And that was put out by 20th Century Fox, which, as we all know, is a company that no longer exists. But this has been re-released several times with the same disc in several different forms, like steelbooks, new slipcovers, new packaging, blah, blah, blah. But we did get that Fly collection that Steven talked about from Shout Factory, which does have the Fly, Return of the Fly, which are the original films, and The Curse of the Fly, and then it has The Fly, Cronenberg's, and then The Fly 2, not directed by Cronenberg. And I'm not sure if... I have to do my research. I don't know if it has a better transfer than the original 2007 release.
I believe the Shout Factory is a new scan or something.
You're probably...
Probably, yeah.
It's gotta be. I mean, they wouldn't put out a... Because that box set came out... 2019, I think? Yeah, 2019. They wouldn't use I wouldn't put it past them, but they wouldn't use a 12-year-old Blu-ray scan.
I'm sure it's a new one. It's one of those sets that I would buy, but I would only want the two Fly films, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those where I kind of only want Cronenberg's. Yeah,
I was able to find it at Walmart for cheap, so it was like
it's still relatively affordable here, which is shocking to me.
But it's like £45 to import it, so I'm just kind of like,
for you
that's kind of rough.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for like maybe a German company might do it or something.
Yeah,
who's kind of been my go-to is to get kind of stuff from Germany because they're cheap.
Yeah. Well, we should move a little bit. We're only about halfway through his filmography.
Yeah, so basically that's the way you can get The Fly. And then next, of course, is Dead Ringers, which started kind of Cronenberg's and Jeremy Irons team up.
And as we were talking about before, we feel like though the themes are still there of like sex and violence and things, his movies start to get a little bit more clinical. A little bit more more mind over physical representations. I mean, there's definitely still a lot of like physical horror going on.
He goes kind of in and out of for the next for the rest of his career. He kind of goes in and out of Cronenberg isms, I guess, if you will. But Dead Ringers is really good. Jeremy Irons plays like twins that are doctors.
One of the most underrated performance that was not awarded enough.
This movie took a long time to get a Blu-ray release.
The thing about that is when Jeremy Irons won his Oscars the year after, he thanked David Cronenberg because everyone knew he should have been nominated for Dead Ringers.
Yeah, it's an amazing performance. Psychological film, very psychological.
And of course, he's playing twins. He's playing two.
Yeah, he's playing twins. They're dentists. They're brothers. I haven't seen this movie in years. I don't own it, and I hate myself for still not owning it. Because it was only available on DVD for years, and there was a Criterion DVD for years as well. Yeah. And I think that went out of print a while back.
That went out of print very fast.
Yes.
Back by 2000, I think, was out of print.
Yeah, so Dead Ringers does have a release
Shout Factory did it.
Yes, has a Shout Factory release here, and in the UK, in Region 2 land.
It's ITV, and it's just if you can import it. Let's just say that. So I did.
Yes, so I did. Yes.
Nicely done. So Dead Ringers is really good, and then we get, of course, to Naked Lunch, his adaptation of the William Burroughs.
Well, it's not really an adaptation.
Yeah, I know it's based off of.
It's a Naked combination Lunch. Of that and just kind of almost like a William Burroughs biography type of story.
Yeah, I mean a lot of it is The Exterminator, which is about when he was an exterminator, and there's that whole part of it, and then there's just kind of takes this images. I mean, the book itself is a bunch of kind of short routines, as he called them. Or just kind of short stories. I mean, a lot of his books are not super narrative for the most part. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great film, the Naked Lunch film, actually. And it was his big passion project at that point. Been wanting to do it for years. Jeremy Thomas produced it, who's a great producer. And I've touched the typewriter from Naked Lunch.
Oh, wow.
Because I interviewed Jeremy Thomas when High Rise came out, because he also produced High Rise, and Crash he produced, and I think Dangerous Method he produced as well. So in his office, he's got the actual typewriter, which is very cool to see in person.
Yeah, I remember this movie being a trip of a film. Yet again, an early Cronenberg film for me. I had the Criterion DVD. I have the Criterion Blu-ray now, and I've never actually read much of William Burroughs' works. I just know of the man himself.
I was named after him, so I kind of had to. My middle name's William,
nicely done.
So I kind of had to become a fan.
Yeah. This film for me is one I have to revisit because I think I visited this one too early, and it was one of the movies that just kind of turned me. I was like, I don't think this one's gonna be for me.
I know you got like all kind of crazy stuff, like mugwumptism and just crazy things happening in this movie. The typewriter that you got to feed. I mean,
that's an asshole.
It's an anus. Literally, it talk about orifices. We talked about that. Cronenberg loves that stuff.
Definitely some of his past movies are challenging, but this for me was like, what am I watching? It's
a weird movie, but
it's really funny though. There's a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, like weird, like I know what you mean. But there is the Criterion Blu-ray release here, and
there is an Arrow release on the way.
Okay, good.
Because
I'm surprised.
It was a postcard recently in an Arrow release, so it's been confirmed.
And it's coming. Good.
I wish they would email me like, "Do you want to write an essay for it?" But
something, yeah.
So if they're listening,
I'm kind of surprised. I know Criterion has released a little bit of stuff in the UK because they kind of branched out over the last couple of years. I'm surprised Naked Lunch was not one of them.
Studio Canal owns it over here.
Oh, that makes sense. So. That's Naked Lunch. The movie starring, of course, Peter Weller. People most know him for as RoboCop from Paul Verhoeven's film.
And it's a role he was desperate to do.
Yes,
because he was kind of a beatnik. Peter Weller's kind of a beatnik. So
really, that's interesting.
Because he was into all that stuff, so he was like really into doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But of course, the movie also stars Judy Davis, Ian Holm, rest in peace, Roy Scheider. Of course, from Jaws fame. It's a really, yet again, one of those Cronenberg films people just kind of have to watch and experience for themselves, where you can't really do it justice.
It's helpful if you know a little bit about William Burroughs. So if you haven't seen it, maybe read up on his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's basically a sort of surreal version of his life in Tangiers for the most part, which is when he wrote the book, was in Tangiers.
Yeah. Speaking of a more, I guess you could say, international film, M. Butterfly is his next film in 1993. And this is, talk about straight-laced, completely different than Naked Lunch or Dead Ringers of Fly.
It's not that dissimilar in a way.
It's straight-laced in, I guess, its approach to the story in a way. For me, I watched it for the first time recently. It takes place in 1960s China. Jeremy Irons is back again, and he plays it's based on a true story, based off of a play as well. He plays this guy called Rene Gallimard, who falls in love with an opera singer, and all kind of stuff kind of ensues after that when it comes to politics and romance and stuff like that. It's not a typical Cronenberg film if you're thinking in that regard, but I liked it. The acting was fantastic. I just thought the film was a little too straightforward and kind of relatively not bland, but it was straightforward. And the film, talk about what we just talked about, The Fly, is where the core of The Fly was the relationship between Gina Davis and Goldblum's character. The core of this film is supposed to be about the Jeremy Irons character and the woman that he has fallen in love with, but I didn't quite feel that as powerful connection as that film wanted.
Well, we should probably say it's not a woman.
Well, I didn't want to spoil it. But you're all right. That is the grand twist towards the
I
end.
haven't seen this one.
But it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious early on.
Yeah, I would say they don't exactly hide it, and they straight up reveal certain hints and certain things as the film goes along. And it is actually based on a true story where over a 20-year period from the 60s to the 80s, this British diplomat was in a relationship with someone he didn't know the sexuality of.
Well, he claims he didn't know.
He claims he didn't know, but it's a little far-fetched. It's a little far-fetched. But it's a really well-directed movie, well-acted. The story is interesting and stuff like that. I didn't quite feel that emotional connection I think the movie wanted us to feel. When it comes to the physical media world, this thing has only been available on DVD for years. No Blu-ray release ever.
Is it out of print now, the DVD?
I don't even know if it's out of print. I used to see it all the time.
I haven't seen anything even DVD-wise, yeah.
It took a long time to come out on DVD. I used to have it on VHS, actually.
Yeah, the DVD came out in 2009, of all time.
Yeah.
Talk about...
It's Warner. Warner's owns it.
That is right. It is a Warner Brothers film. It's available to buy, but I'm pretty sure it's out of print, but you can still find it if you want to pay for it. And
there's an interview with Cronenberg on the disc.
I'm really surprised it's not on Blu-ray yet, considering...
I would assume maybe Warner Archive might do it or something.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to mention some of the Warner Archive announcements, actually. But
I did. We talked about two of them last time.
But it's okay.
And then...
Yeah, I'm not... we can't hit everything every time.
I know.
Not only that, well, I mean, I don't know if, Ian, if you've been listening, my feelings towards Warner Archive is like... I don't know what's going on there. There's just they're not announcing stuff.
Honestly, at this point, there are some Warner titles going back to Criterion, so why not Criterion just put this out? You know.
Well, my thing is I talked about this in the last episode. They have no social media presence at all now. They've got rid of everybody who was running the social media world, so their stuff just kind of drops in like spurts, like one here, one there, one here, one there. We talked about two of them last time, and just to cut in a little bit here, Prince of the City, the Sidney Lumet film, people need to see that movie. It needs to be bought. It's really good. We talked about Shadow of a Thin Man, and we talked about...
It's fine. Prince of the City was the one I was thinking of. That was the big...
and then there's a movie called The Crazy Summer.
I don't know what that is, but
it's a TV release.
Prince of the City is huge to come out.
Yeah, it's a Sidney Lumet film from the early 80s, so it's going to be probably a gap, at least a Blu-ray gap in people's collections. I know it is for me.
And the DVD was split, the film was split over 2 discs.
It is a long movie.
It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's not even that long.
Well, 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Okay. Anyway, let's get to Crash.
Let's get back to Cronenberg. We went on a little sidetrack, but M. Butterfly has a DVD release from Warner Brothers, and that is it. That's kind of sad because I think the movie deserves a little more love than that.
And also, I think it might be a film that people would be very interested in now more than then.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, there is a lot of more interest in the LGBTQ plus cinema and world and representation and all that kind of stuff, which we've touched a little bit on. I mean, we always planned on doing an episode back on Cinema Discovery Project about the new queer cinema, the line of films that came out in the 80s and 90s, which we didn't really get to. I'm a big fan of Todd Haynes. So there was a whole big thing we had planned once upon a time. But it's a movie I think that would be interestingly the way it would play now with the modern context and in the way that this representation is now more seen and more recognized than ever before.
And there's a little bit of that in Naked Lunch, of course, as well.
Yes. But moving on to an interesting film.
And actually, there's a bit in Crash as well, actually.
Oh, yes, there is. There's a lot in Crash. I watched it for the first time a couple of nights ago.
How was that? How was that?
96. Well, I'm like, I'd known about it for years and years and years. Also, I'm like, by this point, I'm watching so many films from so many different filmmakers, and you almost like desensitized to most of it now. But for Cronenberg to go this out there, once again, pushing that envelope. Same thing he was doing in the 80s. I mean, this is an NC-17 movie, I believe.
It is.
I don't know if I don't know if there was there ever an R-rated cut of the movie?
Yes, there was. The original DVD had both cuts from New Line. It's one of the first DVDs my dad bought.
Really? Well, the big joke is like there's always like two crashes people refer to. This crash and the crash, the Paul Haggis film that won Best Picture one. That should have never won Best Picture.
This is the good crash.
This is the good crash.
Everybody, listen.
The one that should have won Best Film in 1996.
Yeah. This movie is... I always say that Cronenberg... I just said that Cronenberg's films seem to have they always seem to have a plot no matter how wild they are. This movie seemingly doesn't quite have a plot. It's more of just a series of thematic and interesting occurrences with these characters. It's a fascinating film. And this film stars James Spader, Holly Hunter, Elias Koteas for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle people fame.
Also Canadian.
Also Canadian.
This is why he's in it. I've always
been a fan of Elias Koteas. Rosanna Arquette is in the film. Deborah Kara Unger is in the film. And this film is all about pushing the envelope or fetishization of different types of sexual interests, sexual acts, sexual
I would say this
stuff.
Is the sequel to Fast Company, right? Sequel to Fast Company.
Oh, yeah, clearly. Clearly. It's like Fast Company with like sex.
Well, I mean, Cronenberg was a big gearhead. You know, he loves mechanical things. He loves cars. So I mean,
the thing about when people when he would come to like meetings for stuff, he was always driving like whatever was the new sports car of the year.
Nice.
With his residual check.
Nice. But yeah, this movie, what happens is James Spader is like a TV director. He gets in a serious accident and he finds this underground group of people whose whole thing is like sexual gratification through many different areas, but typically through like car crashes and masochism, sadomasochism, and all kind of like stuff like that. So it's once again sex, violence, and really immoralistic people. I mean, there's no real true white knights in Cronenberg films for the most part. And yeah, there's a lot of sex in this movie.
Well, they also restage famous car crashes.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, the James Dean crash.
The James Dean crash, the Jane Mansfield crash.
You did the James Mansfield without me.
Yeah, he did it without him. And it is based on a J.G. Ballard novel, which I think you were alluding to earlier.
Yes, I've read the novel. Have you guys read the novel?
No.
Okay, so the novel is set in Shepperton, which is where Star Wars is made, right? And where J.G. Ballard lived. And what's the name of the character? James Ballard.
I didn't even put that together.
Yes. So
didn't put it together until right now.
So it's kind of his fantasy in a way of himself, and the book is set in Britain. The film is pretty close in tone, and there's some events that are from the book. And the sort of main narrative is kind of from the book, but the big difference is obviously it's set in Shepperton, and Ballard set it in the U.S. It's supposed to be L.A., but it's clearly Toronto, the film. And in the book, the sort of a comedy thing where they're trying to have a car crash with Elizabeth Taylor, which is completely not in the film.
Okay. And
that's kind of how the film and the book kind of ends. Is a kind of car crash with Elizabeth Taylor, and that's the big difference. Is the whole sort of Elizabeth Taylor subplot to it? Because he's shooting a film in Shepperton, and the film was very, very controversial in the UK more than anywhere else. It was banned in Whitehall in London.
Which is funny because most of the time movies about sex are always more controversial over here than anything. So,
and it won like a special prize at Cannes with Coppola as the head, and Coppola allegedly hated the film.
Well, they made up a special award for this movie. So.
But Coppola was not happy from all accounts.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in Cronenberg was at Zoetrope at one point, possibly. So I think they even had like a friendship, and then they just fell out, I think, over Crash.
This is an interesting film. I think that definitely pretty much lives up to his reputation of being a controversial, being very sexual, being all of those things. And I thought it was a really great film. It's so interesting watching these characters kind of change and evolve and get more and more pushing the limit in terms of in seeking sexual gratification in very, fetishized ways, and in very dangerous ways, like the adrenaline junkie, but like taking the extra twist of adrenaline junkie, adding the sex part on top of it as well.
Well, it's not even sexual in a way. It's just like they have no emotional connection to people. It's just the only way they can connect to people, really.
Or have any type of emotional anything, feel anything, I guess, was to be for these extreme situations where if they don't have it, I guess they just kind of sociopathic, if you will.
Yeah.
They just don't feel anything. But Crash is available in several different
now
areas.
It is.
Now it is. For years, it was available in no Blu-ray form. And now we've gotten, there's a German release.
Turbine.
There was a German release.
They were the first.
Yeah, they were the first. And then Australia had a release. And the US had a release with Criterion, and Arrow also had a 4K release as well. And for me, from just my cursory look, I think that 4K Arrow release is the best release in terms of total package. It seems to have the most extras. The big drawback with the Criterion release, very slim on extras, which was really kind of soul-crushing for me for buying it for the first time.
Yeah, I was really annoyed the Cronenberg commentary is not on the Arrow release, but that goes back to the old Criterion Laserdisc.
Okay, yeah.
I think Criterion just transferred all those old special features probably onto.
I think there's one or two new ones. I think
maybe it's not as much. I don't think in terms of quantity. There's no.
I used to have an audio rip of that commentary years ago, but I've lost it annoyingly. And now I'm kind of like, I want to buy the Criterion just for the commentary.
Just for the commentary, yeah. There is a few things here, but there's a Cannes press conference which is 38 minutes long. Ballard and Cronenberg.
That definitely wasn't on the Laserdisc. The press
that's 102 minutes long, and then the Laserdisc commentary. Those Laserdisc and DVD commentaries from back in the day. Criterion owns those. You'll never see those anyplace else.
Yeah.
Mostly, you'll never see them anyplace else. I don't quote me on that because
Taxi Driver has the Criterion commentary on it.
Yeah, I was just going to say because Criterion, because the new release of Doctor Strangelove on 4K that just got released has a bunch of maybe all of the Criterion special features as well. So Criterion used to hold on to everything. I guess they're playing nice now with people.
Well, that's because in the UK, Sony basically runs the UK Criterion.
Yeah.
So they have a very, very healthy relationship with Sony.
Yes, they do. They have a very, very fresh. I know Sony actually makes the actual Criterion discs, manufactures them. Yeah. I know that for a fact.
Same here.
So Crash is available now and anywhere and everywhere you want to get it. You just got to pick which one you want.
The Arrow one has a fantastic Q&A with Cronenberg and Ballard. It's like 2 hours long or something. It's like a really long Q&A. It's when the whole controversy in the UK was happening, and they just kind of mocked the controversy. It's really funny. And Ballard's always interesting to hear speak.
Cool. So moving on now to Existenz, which we did a whole episode on here in Cinema Discovery Project. And Existenz, I was talking to Steven earlier, is kind of his last body horror, kind of in that same classic Cronenberg realm, I think.
Yeah, from
what I've seen.
Yeah, it's definitely the last. I think he really delves into using the physical elements of his storytelling as much. He still, I think, uses a lot of the same themes, but he explicitly uses a lot of special effects work. Dealing with like things that are
it is
umbilical cords and things like that.
Umbilical cords and like sticking things into orifices and sex and
this was very much compared
themes.
to like The Matrix because it came out the same
and Dark City and all of those.
And it's also it has that connection with Videodrome where it's very like cautionary story about our dependence on technology and how futuristic that can be and positives and negatives on that.
How you
Great cast in this movie.
You can lose yourself in it because in the film, they get to a point where they can't decide whether they're in reality or they're still inside this fictitious game.
Well, the best description of existence I've ever heard was there's a writer called Jonathan Lethem who wrote the book that Melrose Brooklyn's based off and written some science fiction stuff. Is what he said is basically what Cronenberg did was back in like 1990 he was supposed to make Total Recall. And the producer was like, "You wrote the Philip K. Dick version of Total Recall." So 9 years, and they said they wanted Raiders of the Lost Ark on Mars, which is kind of what they got in a sense. So 9 years later, what Jonathan Lethem said is basically David Cronenberg just wrote his own Philip K. Dick film, and that's exactly what Existence is.
What Existence is, yeah.
Even has the twist of Philip K. Dick, like Indian. So it's the total.
Are they still in the game? Or are they not? Are they?
Yeah. It's and all the different levels, and you're disoriented the whole time. And
amazing cast: Jude Law, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Ian Holm, Willem Dafoe, Christopher Eccleston is in the film.
Sarah Polley.
Yep, and a really good film. Check out the video, the episode we did on it. But as awesome as the film is, and as much as we like it, it's tough to find on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I have the 101 Films release.
I have that, and I have the Turbine one as well.
Yeah,
because I reviewed both of those.
Yeah, there was one release here
by Echo Bridge.
Oh, you know about Echo Bridge? Oh my goodness.
They did one great Blu-ray release, Road Racers. The Road Racers Blu-ray is great.
That's the only one I have, Road Racers. That was the only good one they did. People don't know Echo Bridge. Steven, you got to stop me here because I'm going on an Echo Bridge rant.
I'm going to say, look, guys, we're almost 3 hours in, so we're going to have to speed it up.
Let's just tell you, Echo Bridge, they put out a lot of stuff, a lot of Miramax stuff, and their releases were trash. Their releases were trash. Complete trash. But Existence, unfortunately, like Steven said, only really available. The best version is the one that Steven has from last year. And I remember Steven, when he bought that, it took like 6 months.
A couple years ago. 101 Films.
It's the 101. Oh, you know what it is? They re-released it standard edition last year. That's what it is.
Okay,
yeah.
So what they do normally is they do a sort of supermarket release, and it's the same release, but without the book and stuff. That's the one I have. So I found it for like £7.
It's like how Second Sight does a lot of their releases.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, so moving on now, we're now hit the 2000s, and we have a movie called Spider, which is probably a movie a lot of Cronenberg fans and maybe casual fans of Cronenberg have not seen, because I don't think a lot of people know about it. Starring Ray Fiennes.
You'd think with Ray Fiennes being in it, it would be more, out there, and it was tough for, I finally got a chance to watch it because I bought the damn DVD, but you can't find it online anywhere unless you, find a pirated version maybe or something, but I finally watched it and thought it was very interesting. I really liked it. The performance is amazing from Ray Fiennes.
Yeah, I would probably say it's his best performance, I think.
Yeah, it's up there, definitely.
It's only available on DVD. I bought it on a used DVD at a used DVD store many, many years ago, and it was just kind of a random find. I had no idea that it existed until then. Really good, really great film. Psychological film. Ray Fiennes is someone who's having. It's been so many years since I've seen it, but he's like reminiscing about his childhood and it's affecting his mind and stuff like that.
He's a paranoid schizophrenic.
Yes, that's what it is.
And he gets out. He gets out of like a mental. He goes to stay with a bunch of people, and he's starting to his realities between his memories and his what's really going on is like blending together, and he's, it's he like kind of like the way that Cronenberg stages everything is he's like in his own memories, watching himself, and it's just a very interesting psychological breakdown. And I don't know if maybe this is just weird to me, but the kind of setting of this film kind of reminded me of Eraserhead a little bit.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Where it's kind of like this closed off community.
Well, I think that's just industrial Britain for you.
Yeah, the industrialness. yeah. Maybe. Yeah, but it really felt like this you could watch them together, and it would almost have it would be a great double feature, both movies, dealing with psychotic people. And
it's set in the 60s? I can't remember. I haven't seen it in a while, but is it like a period thing?
It is a period. I think it's set in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. But it does kind of jump around with the memories, so it kind of goes back even further, I think, too. But yeah, it's a great performance, and the direction's great too. Cronenberg, I think, really, is very subtle with this movie compared to some of maybe his other movies, but it's good. Yeah.
Nice. So moving on from that hidden gem to a movie most mainstream people probably know, and this is where things started for me with Cronenberg, and I think maybe Steven as well, History of Violence. Of course, Viggo Mortensen stars in this film, coming off of Lord of the Rings, Maria Bello, Ed Harris, William Hurt. This movie is an adaptation of a graphic novel, I think of the same name, and basically...
written by Joss Olson.
Yes.
Who still has not had an official screenplay credit since History of Violence. And he runs the excellent podcast, Movies That Made Me, with Joe Dante.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've listened to that. Yep, definitely.
Yeah, it's a really... this movie is fantastic. I mean, not to spoil anything about it, it's about this guy who's like small town guy, and then something happens and kind of sets off some things where, is this guy really just this small town, mild-mannered dad, or is there something more to him? And of course, we learn there is something more to him.
Yeah, I mean, the movie is pretty straightforward also, but I think, the movie's, once again, I think in a very direct way saying this is how our lives in many different ways are, different aspects of our lives are related to violence. And not only just like the actual violence of people getting killed or people, but, through sex and through other things and at different times in our life, not just when we're adults, but when we're kids. And how it somehow violence finds its way into almost every aspect of our life somehow.
Yeah. It also kind of this idea that, the past coming back to get you, maybe, things that you thought were gone or perhaps not fully gone and can resurface at any time, which is a frightening thing for a lot of people, I would say. People trying to get over, trying to move on with lives and trauma and things like that. I think it's saying a lot of that. This movie is really, really good. It's about 96 minutes long. It's a tight film. Viggo Mortensen, great actor, always been one of my favorites personally.
Really should have been nominated for an Oscar for this.
Yeah, this is a good one, yeah.
Yeah,
but wasn't William Hurt nominated for supporting actor?
Yeah, and Josh got a screenplay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and of course, this movie's sadly, this movie's more well known for, I guess, having rather risque sex scenes in it as well.
Well, it's one scene.
You see people. Yeah,
it's one scene on a stairwell.
There's technically two scenes.
Yeah, there's a 69 scene.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it, but sure, why not? Sure, why not? And of course, this is one of those where MPAA, you can't have sex scenes that are too sexual.
It was the violence. It was the violence. Was it the sex, actually?
It was the violence. Okay. Oh, yeah, because there was one scene in particular.
Yeah, the US Blu-rays actually cut.
Really? Did not know that. Speaking of which, It has a Blu-ray release, I think, from around the time it came out. No, 2009, which is still a long time ago. But isn't it getting a 4K release by Kino in the future?
That's Eastern Promises.
Oh, that's Eastern Promises. Just release both of them. Yeah. Come on. Stop messing around. But this has gotten a Blu-ray release seemingly in every single country that puts out Blu-rays, or most of them.
It was considered a bit, like, as the featurette says, it was too commercial for Cannes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it got good reviews. I think it did get good reviews, but it was kind of like, wow, he made like a. And also, I think at one point around this time, Cronenberg was going to do a Robert Ludlum adaptation.
Oh.
Which is like
a spy novel adaptation.
Yeah, like a Bourne movie, which is just insane to think he was going to do a film like that.
I'm glad he chose this instead.
It's also just a great sort of neo-noir sort of Western. Yeah. I mean, I know because Josh also mentioned it on his podcast, is he was really thinking of Unforgiven when he wrote the script. And the book and the graphic novel is actually quite different because most of it's like the backstory and it's of the two brothers, and like the actual storyline in the film is like really not in the book at all.
Yeah,
very interesting. Yeah, this has an old Blu-ray release here from Warner Brothers. We're talking 2009 VC1 encode. This needs a remaster and a re-release ASAP. For at least here in the States, it needs one.
It was Entertainment and Video did it over here.
Okay.
And then there was a 2-pack with American History X.
Yeah, I always saw that too, and they're not really the same movie.
No, one's a much better film than the
other. They both have violence in them, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
But speaking of violence, let's move on to Eastern Promises, which is another team up between Viggo Mortensen and Cronenberg, and this is a very interesting movie. This is kind of Cronenberg's gangster film, if you will. If he has a gangster
History
film,
of Violence, still gangsters.
Yeah, also very true. Yep, also very true. And Viggo Mortensen, Naomi Watts is in the film, and
Vincent Cassel.
Oh, shockingly playing a bad guy. Never would have saw that coming. I believe.
I would maybe say this might be out of the Cronenberg Mortensen, collaborations. This might be his best performance out of Mortensen, maybe.
I would go History of Violence personally, but that's just me.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I just think it's a much better film, actually.
I might not argue that, but I don't know. I like the performance in this movie. Obviously, it's got that great fight scene in it.
Oh yes, the fight scene is the stuff of legend.
Yeah. But it's just such a
violence.
It's almost to be honest, I guess the reason I like it so much is because maybe that's how I feel like if I met Viggo Mortensen in real life, that's how he would be. He would just be like very stoic, but also like he might kill you,
I think he's probably a very nice, thoughtful guy.
I'm sure he is. I know. I'm just kidding. But
I think I saw him in the street once, actually, around the time
really? Yeah.
they were filming it. I don't know if I should admit this. The first time I ever saw this was on a pirate DVD I bought in the street.
We'll cut this out. What? No, I'm just kidding.
I think statute of limitations out, and it was actually
it's like whatever.
Yeah, I think it's fine. This was back in the day when they would have like pirate DVDs in the street. You had like these sellers, right? And it was a terrible cam transfer. But that's the first time I ever saw it. It took a while to come out over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, Eastern Promise! I can finally see a David Cronenberg film, but it's a good one. I just haven't seen it in a while, but he's so good in it. He's so good in it, and Cassel's great as well.
Yeah, Cassel's always good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it does have a Blu-ray release here from 2008. So if the movie came out in 2007, this was its original Blu-ray release, and like I said, all those Warner Brothers, even Universal Studios Blu-ray releases from the late 2000s, mid to late 2000s, all need remastered re-releases. They're all in worse encodes, and they just need it. But of course, we are getting one with the 4K edition.
Well, I also bought the Blu-ray, so I think they got my money.
Yeah, you made up for it.
Yeah.
You got it.
As long as you eventually buy it.
So if David Cronenberg is listening.
Yeah, I know. I wish.
Yeah, I wish.
Cronenberg, we love you.
I think he's a bit busy making a film.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but that's Eastern Promises.
Is it Cosmopolis? No, Dangerous Method.
Yeah,
next is a Dangerous Method.
Yeah.
Which is a period piece from Cronenberg.
Yeah. He's done a couple.
I mean, he's done, like we just said with Spider, which took place in the 50s.
And Butterfly?
And Butterfly, yeah.
And Butterfly.
And Naked Lunch,
also
actually, to an extent, is a period piece.
Right. And this is also coincidentally connecting with M. Butterfly based on a true story. It's look at the intense relationship between Carl Jung and
also
Sigmund
Dead
Freud.
Ringers is based on a true story, sort of.
Oh, it is. Yes, it is. As well. So this stars Michael Fassbender, Keira Knightley, Viggo Mortensen once again. Vincent Cassel pops up once again. And I like this movie.
Oh, I like it too. I mean, you could almost say this is like getting at the root of a lot of what he likes to talk about. Freud being a figure that delves into a lot of the things that he likes to delve into. So I mean,
well, the psychology of people and what makes people think in different ways and how they building blocks of their minds, stuff like that.
What do you guys think of Keira Knightley's performance in it? Because I know it was a very controversial performance at the time.
Well, I can't really. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I don't remember not liking her performance. What was controversial about it?
People said she was overacting.
I remember. Yeah, I remember people saying that. People still use like certain images or certain moments of her like overacting, specifically like face acting and stuff like that. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't think I've seen it in like 10 years.
I always thought the thing about that performance is this is a woman who's in the midst of a hysterical meltdown. So it works in that context. In another context, that performance would be way over the top.
Right. And if you've ever been around someone with certain psychological issues or problems, specifically hysteria, things like that, it's completely unpredictable, over the top, goes in all kind of different directions. So if anything, it was pretty accurate to just the overall ambitiousness or, over the topness of it. This is a good film. It's a really solid film. I remember when it came out. I remember when it came out in theaters. I remember buying it on Blu-ray, which I still have. And I like it. I was really into kind of that whole psychology stuff when I was younger and whatnot. And this was kind of interesting. It's more of it's kind of a quasi-biopic, but it's one of those biopics.
It's based on a play.
Okay, that makes sense. Because it's not quite a biopic, but it's like a portion of a life. Those types of quasi-biopics.
Should have been a bit more cocaine use from Sigmund in it, though.
Probably. Well, there's that famous line from Good Will Hunting from Robin Williams' character where he tells his class, next time we'll be learning how Freud did enough cocaine to kill a small horse. Great line.
And accurate.
Yeah. So Dangerous Method, of course, has a Blu-ray release coming out in 2011.
The US one has way more extras than the UK one.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's much better.
This is when we get into kind of interesting territory where UK and US releases for mainstream cinema, some have some extras, some don't. And from what I understand is the UK kept getting better editions than we got here of a lot of movies from like the 2000s and the 2010s. Specifically off the top of my head, Let the Right One In I've been wanting to import that from the UK for several years because it's so much better than what we got here. But that is
it's a cheap Blu-ray. You should.
Yeah, it is. But there was always
I think it was in Poundland, the equivalent to Dollar Store for a while.
Oh.
I may have bought it there, actually.
But next we move on to Cosmopolis, which is not a film a lot of people like.
I like Cosmopolis.
And I like Cosmopolis. The whole film...
It's okay.
I didn't rewatch it recently. It did go down a bit, but I do like Cosmopolis.
It's starring Robert Pattinson's in it. Julia Binoche is in the film. Sarah Gadon. Paul Giamatti pops up. The whole film is like
it's Batman.
A metaphor.
It's Batman.
Yeah, it's Batman. A Batman prequel film.
Fever Dream Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he is like a dude hanging out in a limo the whole time. That seems very
he gets
to
everything
me.
done in that limo.
Yeah. He's a 28-year-old billionaire. Isn't that Batman right there? Bruce Wayne?
Did he invest in Bitcoin?
Oh,
yeah,
hopefully he did. Probably rich now. But basically, Robert Pattinson's in a limo the whole time. And this is all taken around, I think it's all a metaphor or takes place around the stock market crash of 2008. And yeah, I've only seen the film once, and it was a very long time ago. And I didn't hate it. But it is very different from Cronenberg, even at this point in his career, in 2012. It's a different type of movie. Steven, I know you're not a big fan of it.
I don't hate the movie, but it's definitely a challenging watch. You got to really be patient with it.
Yeah.
But maybe Ian can shed some light on the movie more.
Well, yeah. I've got a funny story about it. So I saw it in the theater. I've seen, I think, all of them except for the one I may not have seen legally. Since History of Violence, I actually dragged my parents to see History of Violence, actually, which is funny. And I was underage to see it as well, but I'm tall, so I could get away with it. When I saw Cosmopolis, because it was still like sort of Twilight fandom, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw it, there was loads of like tween girls showed up to see, all Pats in a movie. And I was like,
in for a big surprise.
And for about half an hour, I was like, shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of this fucking cinema. And they left. Because they were just talking on the fucking phone. It's like, fuck off. So say a film ain't for you. Get the fuck out. But yeah, I like Cosmopolis. I mean, I actually read the book like the day before it came out. So I was pretty like versed in the book. It's a very short book. And it's actually very close to the film. He basically transcribed the book. Like almost all the dialogue, everything. He wrote, I think, the script in 2 days or something. And you can kind of tell. But yeah, I mean, basically, like the limo, you could say, is like a metaphor for like a spaceship in a way. And that he's a vampire, essentially. That's why R. Pats is in it. That's why if he was Colin Farrell was the original choice, and then he pulled out. And then
he was in the Fright Night remake, so it would have worked with him too.
And
came out around the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like it. I did watch it again recently with a friend. He's a big Cronenberg fan. He did not like it, and the one thing I had a problem with is some of the real projection has not aged well.
Yeah, have you ever watched some even more recent films, like you were saying, within the last 10 years? Even some modern films with rear projection look really bad. And I'm like...
And I'm the biggest advocate of real projection in the world. I love it when it looks fake. But I actually had to change the levels to make it seem less fake.
Gotcha. But...
and I think it might be Pattinson's best performance, too.
Oh, interesting.
That's... Okay.
Maybe Good Time. Good Time is very good.
I was going to say Good Time's pretty good.
Good Time's pretty good. I liked him in The Rover. No one ever talks about that.
The Rover's a good one.
Yeah.
But I was a convert from Cosmopolis onwards.
Yeah, and then I also watched, what was that film that came out when he went to space?
High Life.
High Life. That was my favorite movie of that year for a long time.
Really?
A long time.
Really? High Life? Wow.
I really loved it.
I liked it, but it never had that sort of moment of being like awe-inspiring that like 2001 or something is. It just needed need to go up that sort of to that next level of a space film for me. But I did enjoy it, and I've seen it 1 or 2 times since.
So back to Cosmopolis, it does have, of course, a Blu-ray release all across the board for most places. It's put out by Entertainment One here, which is a company you don't hear really anything from.
Same here.
They did put out Green Book, in Germany, actually.
Oh,
was that?
Actually, your release is better, actually.
Oh.
Weirdly enough.
Good to know.
Because
we do get an audio commentary with Cronenberg.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
But you get
and then there's a called Citizens of Cosmopolis, which is an hour and 51 minute long feature-length documentary. It's
really good documentary, if I remember.
Featuring interviews with most of the principal cast, crew, and then go through the novel and its adaptation, and the making of the film itself. Wow,
sounds like I need to watch that to maybe I'll like Cosmopolis more.
Dude, that's a hefty, yeah.
All right, Our last
right.
one.
So now we're on to it. Maps to the Stars.
Did you guys see this in the theater?
I saw it. I bought
No.
the Blu-ray and watched it at home.
It came out here early because it played Cannes, and then it came here, and then I think eventually showed up in the U.S. for awards consideration because I think they were trying to get Julianne Moore a nomination that year, and she won for the wrong film. For Still Alice.
That's true. I remember that. Still Alice. Yeah.
And I love Maps to the Stars is one of my favorite Cronenberg films. Actually.
I love it. Thank you.
I think it's pretty great too. It's hilarious. It's funny.
I think it's a brilliant film.
It's just a spot on satire of Hollywood. It's just so spot on. And it's Bruce Wagner wrote it, who also did the TV show Wild Palms. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I was going to Wild Palms for a second. Wild Palms was a show that Oliver Stone produced in 1993, and it's very much in the universe of Maps to the Stars. It's set in Hollywood. It's basically a sort of science fiction, sort of noirish 6-part miniseries that was kind of post-Twin Peaks about sort of Scientology, essentially. And there's a Scientology line in Maps to the Stars. And it had Catherine Bigelow directed one, Keith Gordon, loads of people. And Kino did a Blu-ray, a very nice Blu-ray of it. Maps to the Stars, I mean, it's just a great, great satire. And how good is Cusack in that? I mean, he's just...
Yeah, great. He's great.
You know,
I really like the cast. Julianne Moore, Mia Wasikowska, Robert Pattinson, John Cusack, as you said. This was around the time when Mia Wasikowska her star was kind of blowing up a little bit. Yeah. At least for me. I
wish it did more. She's a great actress.
Yeah, I think she's a great actress. I'm one of the people who really like the film Stoker.
Yeah, I like Stoker. Yeah.
I really like The Double.
Yeah, I know what you mean. She was really good in that. Of course. I think she really started to kind of go up when she was in Alice in Wonderland. Whatever you want to believe about that movie, still
a film I wish I loved. Movie. I wish I loved that film, but I hate that film passionately.
She was in the movie The Kids Are All Right. Talk about Julianne Moore connection. Crimson Peak, the Guillermo del Toro film, which I really liked.
It's okay.
I know a lot of people didn't get what they expected. They thought it was going to be a horror, and what they got was a gothic romance.
Yeah.
He only said it in every interview he did.
Yeah, he said it in every interview, but whoever cut the trailers for that movie did that movie a disservice.
There are ghosts in it, but...
Yeah, there are ghosts in it, but it's not like horror ghosts, you know what I mean? They're like spirits. And if you've seen like The Devil's Backbone or other kind of Cronenberg-y stuff, like that's what he deals with. But yeah, I really do like Mia Wasikowska. I like Maps to the Stars a lot. I loved it when it came out. I think it was one of my favorite films of 2014, which is when it came out, which is, 7 years ago now?
And I guess because it is satirical towards Hollywood, I guess that's the reason they probably didn't really like it.
Who knows? Yeah,
it's not reviewed very well, but at least in the States.
It had some very good reviews, though.
I mean, it did have some, but and
everyone said Julianne Moore should have been nominated.
Yeah.
She's an amazing actress, but when it comes to Maps to the Stars on Blu-ray...
Oh, also it has the worst CGI fire in any film ever made.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
And I still love the film, but that's
it. Yes, it does. CGI fire and CGI blood can really go either way. It can really go either way. But Maps to the Stars does have a Blu-ray release kind of all across the board.
The one to get,
and in Region B land.
The one to get is the British one because you get the Bruce Wagner commentary.
Oh yeah, and and this is a travesty. The American release, the US release, has no special features at all.
Yeah, I think it was rushed out for awards season. I think.
Yeah, it came out. Actually, no, it came out in April of 2015. That was after awards season would be over, right?
Well, just about.
Yeah, Universal really dropped the ball on this.
It was a really limited release over there. It had a kind of a big release over here. It had a massive release in France, as you would imagine. And actually, the French Blu-ray came out well before the UK release, if I remember.
Well, yeah, the UK release came out February of that year of 2015. And then the French release actually ccame out in September of 2014.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
months before.
That is
I think it came out
difference. That's a significant.
because it came out like the week that it played Cannes, because that's like the law in France. So like Annette, for instance, this year, and actually I went to see The Man Who Killed Don Quixote when that came out. I literally took a 14-hour bus ride to France to see The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, because I had been wanting to see that film for 20 years, like most of my life.
Everybody wanted to see it.
And no one saw it, except for me, 3 times in the cinema.
I saw it. I've seen it. I kind of wish I owned it, to be honest. Oh, do I? I don't even remember.
He doesn't.
I have seen it.
It's on Hulu over
there. That production that was just.
And it took 2 years
chaos.
to come out in the UK after Cannes.
Yeah, even that film has one of the most complicated and like doomed productions ever.
Well,
even when he was trying to get it to come out.
Why don't I come back sometime when we do Gilliam films? Let's not get into this right now.
Yeah, let's not go down the Gilliam train now. But
I can literally do 5 hours on that. So.
Yeah.
So that is all of Cronenberg's stuff. We did all of his filmography. We did everything. A lot of stuff. If you haven't seen any of his films,
we forgot a TV show he did an episode for. Friday the 13th.
Yes, he did.
Which is on DVD.
Yeah, we won't talk about that one.
I haven't seen it.
It's definitely out there. And so now we've done 3.5 hours. So that's a pretty. I think I'm going to put this into.
He made a lot of films, so.
Oh yeah, he did a lot of stuff.
We covered them all in pretty good detail.
Amount of time. I think I'm going to split this episode into 2 parts though. For the first time, you'll be the first person I do that for. Cause,
okay.
Yeah, because I think that 3.5 hours to a person for one podcast might look a little bit,
aren't you the Joe Rogan of movie podcasts?
Are we?
I wish. I wish we made his money.
If we were, then we might be doing this a little differently here.
I
might have airplaned you in, or something.
I don't like to fly, so that probably wouldn't have worked.
I might have drove you in across a boat with a boat, and then, But,
no, we would have, if we had his money, we would have gone and done it in the UK.
Yeah. But thanks, Ian, for coming on, man. A lot of knowledge there, a lot of raw knowledge I can see coming from you, man. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, hopefully have you back sometime. We do Gilliam sometime.
Yeah, dude, awesome. Yeah, well, might have to take a break after this one. I'm sweating a little bit, just even though it's really cold down here.
Luckily with Gilliam, there's only about a dozen films. So.
Yeah, it's not nearly as many, but awesome, man. So where's a good place for everybody to reach out to you?
There's my site, Psychotronic Cinema. I'm on Twitter after being banned for 2 years with a different account because I called Candace Owens a nasty word. And then just Twitter or Facebook, whatever.
All right.
But Psychotronic Cinema is like my main site, but I write for other places. Just Google my name and you'll find me.
Cool. Andrew?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Cabzilla06, as well as my YouTube channel, Cabzilla Productions.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me running all the Chasing Labels stuff, either at Instagram or at Chasing Labels, Twitter, or my Letterboxd at Chasing Labels. You can find the audio for the podcast at Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all the major label stuff. That's it for this episode. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.